I really wanted to utilize monsters and lore and things like that don't get touched on often. Like, no hate, okay, but I've seen the Wood Elf Ranger a couple times already. I really like the idea of characters that have a misunderstanding built into them. I feel like turtles don't really bang too much.
Well, how would there be more turtles then?
I think that's why they're on the edge of extinction.
Welcome to Characters Without Stories, a TTRPG podcast about the roads not yet taken. As this is the inaugural episode, thanks for listening, let me tell you a little bit more about the podcast. If you play tabletop role-playing games, you probably have some back pocket characters, some characters who are just waiting for the right story. Every episode, I'll bring in a friend to tell me about their character and their approach to creating characters. This episode, I am joined by my friend Andrew Rahman.
Hi.
Hi, Andrew. Andrew and I have been playing D&D together for, about 3 years now?
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm currently playing in 2 campaigns that you're running, and you are playing in my first campaign as a DM. Andrew does pro GM over on startplaying.games, and you're streaming on YouTube. I'll give you a chance to plug your projects at the end, but if there's anything you want to tell the listeners about yourself?
I guess, yeah. I've been playing D&D 5th edition since 2012, and I've ran games in convention halls and local game stores and in my house and now digitally online. So I've been playing D&D all over the place for the last 10 years. And I run an after-school program. Well, I used to run an after-school program for my middle schoolers, Dungeons and Dragons in the middle school. So yeah, just eat, breathe, sleep, D&D.
So tell me, who are you bringing to the table today?
Oh man, I have had the opportunity to make so many player characters, but I want to talk about Bart. Bart gets no love.
Why doesn't Bart get any love?
Let's just say that in the grand scheme of Rangers, Bart doesn't really fit the mold.
How so?
The classic trope of Ranger is a bow and arrow. A long-range character lives on the outskirts of society and is very self-sufficient. And probably intentionally, I don't think there's any subconsciousness about it, I made Bart very reliant on society, not range at all. And lives in the middle. He lives in the middle of a city.
Well, so what do you mean that he's reliant on society?
So the origin story of Bart, which is a Bartholomew Bigglesburg. And I named him Bigglesburg. Did you watch the EXU Calamity with Brendan and Matt and Abria?
I haven't had the chance yet.
Okay, well, there's a joke in there, and my character kind of stemmed from that when you get a chance. But Bigglesburg is the last name, and it's a part of the joke. Bartholomew, or Bart, he lives with other turtles. He doesn't live on the outside. When you look around at the Forgotten Realms, through all the lore, turtles only live in one place. So it's not like you have all these options to choose from. The little turtles all come from the south of Chult. By the lack of lore, it forces the lore to them all live in the same place, which is a fort in the south of Chult called Ahoy Hoy, which is like, I'm not going to get away from that. That's awesome. Ahoy Hoy, come on. It's so funny. So, yeah, they all live together. There's no way you could be away from it. And Bart is a long-distance marathon runner, which is not really a turtle-y kind of thing to do.
Yeah, it definitely goes against the stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my combat sequence for Bart is he will first use a bonus action to cast a Chardalon's Stride, which gives him the extra 20 feet of movement. So his base movement is 40. And then every round after that, he's using his bonus action to turn invisible and then reappear and then melee creatures. So he runs up with on fire. He runs at people on fire, and he turns invisible and then reappears and just starts punching them. Because turtles have fists, instead of dealing bludgeoning damage, do slashing damage, and they get their strength modifier added to that. So it's basically dual wielding short swords.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, where does the invisibility thing come in? Is that a Tortle ability?
That's the part of the Ranger class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you got to tell me. So they are a ranger, and we're talking here about D&D 5e, by the way. They are a ranger. What's the subclass?
It's a Drakewarden Ranger. So he's a turtle that worships dragon turtles, which I feel people dismiss right away as a dragon because they don't do the normal. They don't fly, basically. But ancient dragon turtles, challenge rating 22, pretty hardcore creature. Instead of breathing fire, they breathe steam, which deals fire damage, so whatever. But it's crazy. So I really wanted to utilize monsters and lore and things like that don't get touched on often. Like, no hate, okay, but I've seen the Wood Elf Ranger a couple times already.
Yeah, what the hell, man? That was my first character.
Hey, that's not weird. It's not weird at all. That's, in the player's handbook. But there's a character in the novels, Forgotten Realm novels, Drizzt Do'Urden, who's also a ranger, and they're completely melee. It's a complete melee ranger. So there's a lot of looking to bring that back and make that exist in 5e. It's not great, but it's close.
I mean, that character that I'm talking about, Murima, by the way, I mean, she was dual short sword melee by the end of it. So I do like that that style.
Yeah, but yeah, you look at the options for fighting styles, and you get, is it 2-weapon fighting, dueling. There's no great weapon master. That's unfortunate, or great weapon dual wielding, which is unfortunate. And there's also a lack of really like melee based bonuses or spells or anything like that leads towards the ranger. You'd have to do stuff like pick up, I don't know, booming blade or something. When fighters can just use maneuvers, right? Battle master. That's awesome.
So would you say that this is typical of your approach, how you decided to play this character is kind of going against or exploring maybe an area of lore that is unexplored?
I would say that when I design a character, I really like the idea of characters that have a misunderstanding built into them.
Could you expand on that a little?
So for Bart was raised with the fable of the turtle and the herongon, which is, the analogy, analogous of the tortoise and the hare.
Mm-hmm.
And what is like the lesson learned from that? Because like, what would you say is the lesson learned from that story?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Right. So Bart finds that offensive, that anyone would say a turtle is slow. Like, yeah, okay, the turtle did win the race, but also you have to say, and you're slow, right? So with that in mind, raised to become a Division 1 athlete, needed to be Olympic level running to spit in the face of, that value. Which I would say, like, slow and steady wins the race is the kind of advice that you give somebody when they're feeling frustrated and they feel like other people are doing better than they are. So you kind of go, listen, man, I know you're feeling like you're not catching up with everybody else, but in the end, if you are focusing and you're doing a really great job, chances are your end product is going to be fantastic. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
No.
Because I can be fast and I can be incredibly efficient and I can create something that's amazing and entertaining and valuable, and I don't need to be slow about it. Maybe you need to be slow about it because you're a turtle, but the rest of us out here are going full speed, buddy. So it's not a great lesson. Bart hears that, and Bart is, turtles live at the far end 250 years old. So Bart's been in it, contemplated it, chewed it up, spit it out, rethought the whole thing, lived through that scenario, brought it back, and in the end, at 200 years old, his wisdom said, "This is mean. This is mean advice."
So how long has he been training then? Did he like just decide to start training, or has he been doing it for years?
Oh no, as soon as he hit adulthood, which is like 18, I have him participating in some some non-existent marathons. So like the Sword Coast Sprint, he's gotten some trophies from there. He's attended the Faerun finals, and all sorts of like the Chult Challenge and the 10 Towns tournament, like all of these competitions. He has collected trophies and keeps the trophies in his shell.
That I cannot tell you how much I love that. That you came up with names for all of these races.
My boy deserves respect. and and he has the trophies and he has the placards and he keeps them on inside his shell because turtles, that's their home.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that they basically don't wear any armor.
Yeah.
So everything that he needs is innate. No steroids. Didn't need to be sponsored by Nike. I don't need no Gatorade. It's just au naturel.
Would you say he's a successful racer?
Yeah, I'd say he's closer to retirement than the beginning of his career.
Okay, so what level are you building him at then?
17.
Oh, okay. This is a seasoned character.
This is a character who has met the best and been on the same level or close to for a while. So that's 14 levels of Ranger, Drakewarden Ranger, and 3 levels of Cleric to emphasize the religious aspect of following. So in the Hindu religion, there is a story of the world being supported or being lifted up by an elephant,
Mm-hmm.
and then the world and the elephant also being lifted up by a turtle, so world turtle or the cosmic turtle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where Bart puts his religious focus in.
Oh, interesting. So, what would you say was the spark that led to you creating this character?
I wanted to play a Drake Warden, and I didn't want to play a Drake Warden that had a relationship with a red dragon or a blue dragon or any of the classic dragons. So really the origin was the sea turtle. And from that was the obvious pitfall of do not make him a ninja turtle, right? Because I think Ninja Turtles kind of occupy more real estate in our minds when it comes to fantasy turtles.
Right.
So I was just racking my brain trying to figure out, what other turtles can occupy that space. And I was thinking, okay, well, there was that preschool show, Franklin. And I don't know if you're familiar.
I am not familiar.
It's dumb. It's silly. It's just one of those, oh, I'm a turtle and I have a bunch of animal friends. It's like a Winnie the Pooh, really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a Winnie the Pooh, but it's like late 90s Winnie the Pooh. And I was looking at Finding Nemo, at that turtle who's like just a bro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little over that stereotype. So yeah, I landed on an Aesop's Fable and came out really cool. I like Bart a lot.
So it seems like you kind of started with the class. You started with Drakewarden and went from there.
Yeah.
Is that something you usually do when you're building a character?
If I have to make a character quick, and this is pretty standard for DMs, look at the party composition and try to fill in a blank.
Well, in this case, you didn't have a blank to fill.
Oh, in this case, I was instructed. I was told, make a Drakewarden Ranger.
Oh, who told you?
The DM for the story.
Oh, okay. Did you ever get to play Bart?
I played one round,
One round?
one single round of Bart. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, so what happened to Bart?
What happened to Bart? Nothing happened to Bart. It was just too much time had passed. I could only be in that session for 3 hours, and we were at the like maybe 2 or 3 minutes before 3 hours were done. And I was like, yeah, I actually can't play. I gotta go. And that was the end of Bart.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah,
Can you give me some more details? Like, how old is he? Or, I mean, even if he's a he, I don't know if we've established that.
Bart's a guy. Bart's a he. Bart's 200 years old. Bart's 3 feet tall. It's a little guy. I feel like I feel like in the fable for the tortoise and the hare, they are actually a tortoise and actually a hare. They're not giant anthropomorphic people animals.
Right.
So I tried to push them down as small as I could, and they only let me go to 3 feet. So 3 feet is still the largest tortoise I've ever heard of, but
Have you ever seen a Galapagos tortoise? Because they're huge.
oh, okay. Yeah, I have. Not in real life.
Oh, they have them at the zoo. I've seen them at the zoo.
How big are those guys?
If they were to stand on their hind legs,
Which is like impossible, right?
right, which is impossible for them, I would say they'd be about 4 feet tall.
Nice.
They are even standing on the ground because their shells are so tall. They're something like 2.5 feet, I would guess, maybe 3 feet. They have a very tall shell.
I just googled it. The Galapagos giant tortoise can grow to be 5 feet tall.
Yeah, they are amazing. Very cool looking.
Horrifying. Bigger than a lot of children.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they live a very long time.
That's dope. Yeah.
So, do you want to tell me a little bit more about Bart's appearance?
Bart's just a green turtle. It's pretty standard fare. Just a green turtle with green eyes and green shell. But in terms of Bart's equipment, when Bart is in adventurer mode, he does keep a bow with him, but I make it a point never to fire the bow because I want the bow to stay pristine. The only reason he has a bow is to signal to other rangers that he's a ranger. It's the point of the bow. And his weapon is a dragon lance.
What? Okay, tell me what a dragon lance is.
Ooh, a dragon lance is so cool. So first of all, the name is a little deceiving. It can be a lance, but alternatively, the weapon can be made to be a pike. So both of those are possible.
I think you're assuming that I know the difference between a lance and a pike.
Oh, okie doke. Well, right. So a pike is just a 10-foot long weapon, and it deals 10-foot long weapon damage, like a D10 or whatever. A lance is you get disadvantage if you attack with a creature that's like 5 feet in front of you, but a lance is pretty standard when you are mounted.
Okay. So it's like what knights would do in like the jousting. That's a lance.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so like the reason why it's a dragon lance is because typically a knight, like you're saying, a knight would be a dragon knight, would be mounted on the back of a dragon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's why it's a dragon lance, because it's for those kind of knights.
For a Drakewarden.
Yeah, but it can also be a pike. I prefer it to be a pike. So it's got that kind of narrative aspect of it where you are on the back of your dragon and you're charging into battle. When it attacks with the Dragonlance, you deal an excess damage in force damage, which is, there's only like 8 creatures in the game that have any kind of resistance to force damage. So it pretty much is always going to be great. But the second aspect of it is if you hit something with the Dragonlance, you can choose a dragon around you to use its reaction to melee attack your target.
A dragon around you? Like the drake that you would be a Drakewarden of?
Yeah, if it's your dragon, then obviously it would be on your side and it would attack. But also, if it's an ally of yours, which is to say, someone else's drake that's in your company, that's in your military outfit, they will fight too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So in a wonderful way, it's like 12 dragon riders going in, supporting each other. If there's a miss, they can have the other dragons like come in and help out to land a blow. That's so cool. So that's really the entirety of Bart's outerwear is a bow and the Dragonlance. That's everything.
Right, because he doesn't need armor.
Yeah, 17 AC at level 1. What is that? Crazy.
Does Bart have a voice? I know you like to do voices.
Bart did have a voice in that session, and I spent, I want to say, 3 days designing Bart's voice. When I do voices, I go through YouTube and I look at the different kind of skills I would like to acquire in order to perform the voice. I don't know if this comes off well, but I have a very high-pitched voice. Growing up, everyone said, "Oh, you sound like Mickey Mouse." I'm like, "Yeah, ho ho." Like, I guess I do. So the first thing I had to do was I had to research how to make my voice resonate from my belly and from my chest, because for the most part, my voice resonates in my nose. So I did a lot of work on dropping my octaves. And then from that deep voice, I wanted to have a different nuance to a different piece of it, which was sounding like I was 200 years old. So it's not just incredibly exuberant miner, like an old crazy miner who just found their first nugget of gold, but I wanted to sound old, and I wanted to sound slow and like a deep voice, which is a little hard for me. But let me see. I need to sit up. So some of the things were like deep breaths. Don't take any breath while you're speaking, and try to get to resonate in the chest, and then just talk slow. So it was supposed to kind of resonate down here a little bit and seem maybe like Bart's chewing on molasses. And I can feel it too. I can feel like my chest vibrating when I speak. So I know that I'm hitting it. But yeah, that's Bart.
Yeah. Can I ask a question for Bart? You respond in character?
Sure.
What's the first thing you notice about a person when you meet them?
How thick their thighs are. I really want to make sure that if it ever came down to it, probably have to race them.
That's not where I thought that was going at first.
Hey, listen, Bart could get it if Bart wanted to get it. Bart doesn't need to get it anymore.
If they live to be 250, I mean, that's 50 years without getting it? I don't know. That sounds sad.
I feel like turtles don't really bang too much.
Well, how would there be more turtles then?
I think that's why they're on the edge of extinction.
Well, turtles lay eggs. Turtles, however, are a completely different story.
Portals do not live in enough of Faerun.
Anything else you want to share about Bart, or do you think we covered it?
It's weird because sometimes when you concoct adventurers, the idea is that they are designed to make money through adventuring, and you gain clout through adventuring, and you gain renown through adventuring, and you become a hero of the realm, etc., etc. And that's their focus. That's their main job. They have to send all their attention that way. Bart is so weird because I made it where his adventuring is his second job. That's not the point of Bart. The point of Bart is to kind of stop people from telling that fable and to contradict it by racing and showing that turtles can be fast too.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever made a character that is specifically motivated by gold or renown.
Does your character generate income a different way?
Yeah. I mean, I think once the campaign starts, it becomes a different story, but I'd say, yeah, definitely.
I feel like there's a big part of adventuring classically where your character has to be unhinged. There needs to be a little bit of like risking your safety in order to make a buck.
Hmm.
I would say that Bart would choose more often than not to adventure. Like if presented the ideas of like, would you rather run or do you want to save the realm? Bart would go, I'll run.
So why does he adventure then?
Because to get from one place to another in the realm, he must survive. And to survive in the different places that he's gone to, like you can't take a plane, right? Or
Right.
you can't afford a train, even if there were trains, you can't afford a train unless you're making a lot of money. And so what would give him the physical stress to work out and exercise? Like adventuring does that. But what puts food on the table? Adventuring does that. So inherently, traveling from one end of the continent to another end of the continent is very expensive. So he has to. And if he spent all his time in accounting, where would he have the time to become big and muscular and be faster than what a turtle is supposed to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so would you say his income from running from prize purses isn't great?
I would say it's inconsistent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's like that one town isn't going to have a race every month. So you got to leave. You got to find the next one, right? And when you do like the big things, like the Olympics, what is that? Every few years. Horrible. Absolutely horrible, right? Or if you wanted to attend an Olympic event that was off season, like not the Winter Olympics, you want to do a different one. Well, you'd have to travel to a different part of the world where that season is in season.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a bit of you got to be a little unhinged to be an adventurer, and so Bart is a little broken in that, where it's like my whole life is dedicated to running, but I can't run over there until I can pay the ticket.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for sharing Bart with us. Do you have any things you'd like to plug? How can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at not underscore Andrew because that's an easy way to be found. Um, I'm on TikTok. Name is Mxlpxl. It's Mxlpxl. If you are in the D&D circles, who knows? Maybe I'll show up and you don't have to search for me. I'm doing okay. picking up steam on TikTok. YouTube is also youtube.com/dmxlpxl, and I'm on Start Playing Games as my full name, Andrew Rahman.
Again, thanks for coming, and thank you for listening to my very first episode. You can find me on TikTok at StarMamaC, that's Star Mama C. And if you would like to send your character to be on the show, you can email me at characterswithoutstories@gmail.com. Thanks so much.